In Royal Caribbean, I think there's good news, there's great news, and there's surprising news. And I think Points Choice, when it was announced in October, certainly fit pretty much all three of them. But now with the formal announcement of what Points Choice is and how you can earn points by cruising on Celebrity and Silver Sea, it certainly checks those boxes again. I mean, I'm really impressed by what this is. And if you haven't been following this, Royal Caribbean group now is going to allow you, beginning at the end of this month, to sail on a Celebrity cruise or a Silver Sea cruise and earn Crown and Anchor points. Also, you could go the other way and go on Royal Caribbean and earn Captain's Club points within Celebrity. But for the first time ever, you're going to be able to go on one of these other lines and be able to earn points to the program of your choice. Up until now, if you went on a Celebrity cruise, you would earn Celebrity points. This is a little confusing because there has been status matching already, where if you're a Diamond member in Crown and Anchor Society and you went on Celebrity, you would get, I believe, elite status over there. But your point total would still be 0, if that makes sense. Anyway, now you can actually earn points in the program of your choice. I think it's a huge deal, and I think this is something that's really going to be a win-win for both consumers and the company. Because why is Royal Caribbean doing this? It's one reason. I'd say one reason only, but there's the top reason. The number one reason why somebody at Royal Caribbean thought about this is to make the monies. They were thinking about, look, how do we drum up more business? Well, obviously their bread and butter has been to, go after the new cruise market, but there is an established cruiser market, a very loyal one that Royal Caribbean enjoys. Celebrity does as well. And I think they were looking at it as, what if we got these people who already love us, who already cruise with us, to cruise even more? But I bet you if you went back, a year ago at this time and said, hey, Royal Caribbean cruiser, why don't you cruise on Celebrity? The answer might have been, well, I'd consider it, but, I'm going after diamond status, or I'm trying to elevate, get more points, whatever. I'd prefer to stay within my ecosystem. That, I'm sure, was at the top, if not one of the top reasons for why people didn't try one other brand. Now, that barrier is gone, and I think it's really impressive what Royal Caribbean has done with this. Now, I'm not going to assume that everybody listening to this podcast is all of a sudden going to go out and book a Celebrity cruise or a Silver Sea cruise. I know I didn't. But going forward, now there's that permission, that ability to look beyond and say, you know what? Maybe you've always wanted to go to a destination, whatever it is. Maybe it's the Baltics. Maybe it is South America. I don't know. But somewhere that Royal Caribbean doesn't go to ordinarily or at all, now you have that choice if Celebrity goes there or Silver Sea goes there. And I think that's kind of a bigger deal than it sounds like as you're listening to this. But there are a couple things that truly stand out about this program, what Royal Caribbean didn't do, and maybe will do in the future regarding Points Choice. And I think as we look forward to it, this might be some things that you want to keep an eye on. First and foremost, which is kind of the biggest surprise to me, is you need to actually be proactive about it. I always assumed it would be like a setting in your account where you'd go in there and say, for, going forward, please make all my points go to Crown and Anchor Society. But it's not. It's a la carte, which means when you go on a cruise on another brand, you only have 2 weeks to actually make that change over. It's a little surprising to me. Again, I thought it would be automatic, but it requires you to also act quickly, which cue the endless threads we will see on various message boards and Reddit and Facebook where people are saying, hey, I went on a cruise last month on Celebrity. How do I move my points over to Crown and Anchor? And it's like, well, you can't, because you only have 14 days from the conclusion of your cruise to make that happen. Now, they're going to work on a system, I believe, in the future that's going to allow it to be more automatic or more of a setting. But it sounds like I'm not sure if it's a technical problem, like they don't have that means, so they're going to make it manual for right now. But anyway, you've got to apply for it, and you need to do it within 2 weeks. So it's definitely something that when you get home, the first thing you should be doing, really, really quickly, is getting that done. Don't let it linger, because I feel like you're apt to forget. At least that's how I would do it. Number two, probably the biggest surprise of the points conversion, and this again refers to how you get points. So obviously, cabins on the various lines differ than what's on Royal Caribbean. And there's a conversion chart that depends on which room category you're on and how many people, if it's a suite, if it's a standard room, and how it converts over. There's a whole conversion chart process to this. But the only big surprise, something that almost immediately people jumped on, is that the concierge and aqua class rooms on Celebrity are actually kind of a hack right now. So what I mean by this is if you book a concierge or aqua class room, you get actually more points than I don't say you probably should, but more than we expected to get for it. So concierge and aqua class sound very fancy. It's really not. It's basically a subclass of the balcony cabin. They call it a veranda on Celebrity. But it's like a balcony with extra benefits, but it's not a junior suite. And quite frankly, the benefits are not that great. The concierge class benefits essentially get you like, I remember the first time I ever went on Celebrity, I stayed in a concierge classroom. I thought it was going to be great. It was like, okay, whatever. You get some like appetizers every day, and you get a bottle of wine and cotton bathrobes and the on-board concierge, which isn't that helpful if you pre-plan almost anything. I mean, it's pretty, in my opinion, it's pretty lame amenity. Certainly nothing that I would say you should book that particular cabin for. However, in many cases, concierge class or aqua class are actually cheaper than a regular veranda room to begin with, number one. And number two, most importantly, if you book one of these, it actually transfers over as 2 Crown and Anchor points per night, which is the same amount of points you'd get for being in a suite, including a junior suite. And again, on average, I found that concierge and aqua class are cheaper than junior suites. So what this really means is if you're chasing Crown and Anchor points and you're looking for a little bit of a hack, you might consider going on a celebrity cruise in a concierge or aqua class room in order to see if you can actually get a cruise cheaper than maybe a junior suite, or even booking yourself solo and being able to take advantage of those extra points. It's kind of interesting. Also, speaking of points, I was really surprised that the point exchange rates will be updated every year. I mean, I guess it makes sense. I mean, I guess am I more surprised they're doing it annually, or they're just not like specifying when it would happen? Like, I was assumed, like, listen, it's their program, they can update it anytime they want, but they said they're going to do it annually. So I guess every January or so we can expect the point exchange rates to possibly update, which sounds a lot like what the airlines do. I don't know. But anyway, I mean, most of the point exchange rates were pretty straightforward. I mean, nothing here really stood out as like, wow, it's substantially different than what I expected. I mean, I'll be honest with all of you. The way the points work on Captain's Club or Venetian Society doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, I'm sure I'm just used to Crown and Anchor, right? 1 point in a regular room, 2 points in a suite. Pretty straightforward. You know, on Celebrity, if you go on the Ultimate Family Townhouse, you get 24 points, but an Icon Loft is only 18 points. It's just the way that they do their, I just don't understand the system well enough to understand it. I'll simply say that it's interesting they'll be updating it annually, but I don't expect there to be much of a difference. The biggest thing would be if, like, one of their lines introduce a new kind of cabin, in which, again, similar to the Aqua and the Concierge class, where there's like a hack involved where you could possibly get more points for sailing there, but nothing else really stands out. There is something else that I probably should mention, which I've not gotten an answer to yet, and this is probably the biggest thing, is for kids. So Celebrity, kids can't have Captain's Club membership until they're 18. So it's a bit unclear what happens if you take your kids on a celebrity cruise. Do they get Crown and Anchor points because they can't have a Captain's Club account? I actually reached out to Royal Caribbean when they made the announcement to ask for clarification. I've not heard back from it, but it's probably the biggest question mark about the program. I think everything else, everybody's been pretty like, okay, it's either what they expected or even better than they expected. But the kids thing on celebrity is kind of odd. But I'm also going to say one other thing about this whole program, and that is, I think this is pretty much where I'd want to be. Like, some people are like, oh, great, we're getting now points that you can get interchangeably. Wonderful. How about making one loyalty program and getting rid of the 3? I will go on record, and I'm doing this right now, by saying I think that is going to be a mistake. Mark my words. I think it's a mistake. The reason why I say it's a mistake to have a unified loyalty program is you get so many more benefits on Royal Caribbean and so much fewer on Celebrity or Silver Sea. Now, part of that is because, well, so much more is included on Celebrity or Silver Sea. In fact, Silver Sea, I mean, pretty much like, I mean, if you name the best Royal Caribbean benefits that you get at Crown and Anchor Society, those are all things that are included with a cruise on Silver Sea to begin with, right? So a bit of an outlier situation there. But what I'm trying to say is, I just don't foresee a situation in which you could enjoy the very best benefits of Royal Caribbean in a unified program that includes now Celebrity and Silver Sea. To me, it almost has to be watered down. Like, I just don't see a way around it. I mean, call me crazy. I don't know, but I just don't see a way that they wouldn't. Again, when you unify, combine, I'd be very worried of benefits being like, well, we're gonna, start melting things down, and it's just I would prefer the programs, the actual tiers and the benefits stay apart. I love points choice. I love the status matching in which you can, you get your equivalent stats on the other line. I just am very leery of them going beyond this to make it more unified. Now, Royal Caribbean, their CEO, Michael Bailey, did talk about this during the President's Cruise last year. And he talked about they're very specific about this. They didn't want to, I believe the metaphor he used was they didn't want to like topple the apple cart. They didn't want to do too much too quickly and then all of a sudden realize they made a huge mistake. And so they're very cognizant of what they're trying to do. That being said, I feel like the issue here really is that as many of you know, I'm a terrible predictor of the future. I don't know more than any of you guys do, but that scares me a bit. Like the points choice thing when they announced it, I think from the get-go, I was a big fan of it because it made a lot of sense. I really didn't think they were going to water it down or dilute it all that much. But if they were to ever combine the loyalty programs into like when I say, merge them, I'm talking like more of like a Bonvoy in Marriott type approach where there is, no matter which brand you go on, Silversea, Royal Caribbean, Celebrity, it's this like, there's only like one program, like Pinnacle, Emerald, that kind of thing. I'd be worried about that one personally. So I think points choice is a big win. I also think it is, if I can, since the podcast viewing public here loves when I compare other cruise lines, they don't actually. I think I'm always out of touch with it. What Carnival is doing by stripping away loyalty benefits and what Royal Caribbean is doing by making it easier to earn points is such a refreshing change. And I still think Carnival's going down the wrong path. I think they know it because they've tried to water back or backtrack a little bit of some of their changes there. But still, this is a huge win, I think, for Royal. And I feel like it definitely values the repeat business more. And it gets them, theoretically, more bookings in the future. So that's why I say I think points choice is definitely a win-win. All right, time to answer listener emails. Part of the episode where I answer emails you sent me. First email is from Brian Brashears. Hi, Matt. We're looking on going either Legend of the Seas, Star of the Seas, or Harmony of the Seas in December of 2027. I was wondering what are the main differences between the Oasis and the Icon class. Does Royal Caribbean have a program similar to Faster to the Fun from Carnival? What is the cost, and do you think it's worth the price? This would be our first cruise in Royal Caribbean. If we choose this, we have went on Carnival Panorama last year and have Celebration booked for this December. My last question is, how does the loyalty program work in Royal Caribbean? Is it based on nights sailed or points? Wait, I mean, I could turn this entire email into an episode here, but the biggest difference between the Oasis class and the Icon class is you got big and you got bigger. They're mega ships, some of the newest ships in the fleet. Certainly Legend and Star are the very newest ships in the fleet, best of the best, biggest, greatest, all that. Harmony being an Oasis class ship, she's the third in the Oasis class. She's not old. It's 2016, so about 10 years. They're all really good choices for different reasons. I like them all. If you ask me what's my favorite, I would definitely pick either Legend or Star. The Icon class, to me, is a game changer. The Oasis class was one as well, but I think it is a step above it. Now, you're also going to pay a lot more for Legend or Star. I think it's worth it, but the main differences really are some of the layout features, entertainment, restaurants. Like, Harmony has 3 water slides. Legend and Star have 6 water slides. Boardwalk is on Harmony. They have Surfside for young kids on Legend and Star. There's like those kind of nuances there. Royal Caribbean does have a program similar to Faster to the Fun called The Key. I don't recommend it. I've talked about this. There's many videos here on our YouTube channel at Royal Caribbean Blog. You can watch. There's articles at royalcaribbeanblog.com in which I review it. I think the benefits sound better than they are. I don't recommend them. Also, your last question about how the loyalty program works is based on points, based on the number of nights you sail. If you sail in a balcony or a lower category, it's 1 point per night. If you stay in a suite, you get 2 points per night. If you sail solo, you get an extra point on top of any of those. So hope that's the really basic version, Brian. Again, we have articles and videos about Crown and Anchor Society over at royalcaribbeanblog.com. Our next email is from TJ Bruzik. Hi, Matt. First off, you're the man. Thanks for everything you and Royal Caribbean Blog do for us. I'll be reaching diamond status on an upcoming cruise, and my wife and son won't be joining. Our next cruise together will be on Star in April. Will my wife and son automatically reflect diamond status when we board that sailing, even though they won't have yet the required nights themselves? Yes, they will. So basically, as long as you're, in Crown and Anchor Society, you and your wife are established as in a relationship, which I'm probably certain has been the case forever, but yeah. And as long as your son is under the age of 18, then yes, it would be automatic. because they're all tied to your account there. You're all tied to each other, I should say, really. TJ's other question is, regarding Diamond internet benefits, since we'll be purchasing an internet package for the cruise, how does the complimentary day of internet work with Diamond? So it's automatic. Basically, you can't prepay it, but if you get on board the ship, TJ, and you go to buy an internet package on board, when you select the one device internet package, you will see a 24-hour pass discount. You could alternatively simply purchase a 24-hour pass for free and pay nothing. Otherwise, if you buy the week-long pass or whatever, you get a slight discount on it. For that discount, I've said this before, TJ, if you're on a 7-night cruise, you're still probably better pre-purchasing it. If you're on a 3-night cruise or maybe a 4-nighter, it's more of a wash as to is it better to pre-book or take advantage of your Diamond discount on board. So there you go. Next email is from Kaylee. Hi, Matt. I listen to your podcast and watch your YouTube channel. I love all the great information you share. I had a question. We just found out Solarium Bistro will be closed for our Alaska sailing in August on Anthem of the Seas because it's a kosher sailing. We were not made aware of this when we booked, and our plan was to eat in the Solarium Bistro instead of the Windjammer because of how busy the Windjammer can be. Now it appears the Windjammer will be even more busy since now anyone that is in kosher booking will only have that buffet to go to. Where do you see us for lunch on Embarkation Day since Solarium Bistro has been our plan to avoid the Windjammer completely? We got a Chops plus 1 dining package to help with the fact Solarium isn't available, but I heard specialty dining and the main dining room are closed on Embarkation Day for lunch, so is our only option Windjammer or one of the other kiosk spots. We are so disappointed. I wish it was a pop-up while booking that it's kosher sailing and Solarium Bistro will be unavailable. What other special type of sailings make things unavailable to the general public so we can avoid those in the future and get everything we want for our sailing? Thanks for your time. So, a couple things. First of all, Royal Caribbean never highlights that because basically it's a group sailing. And they will, when they do partial groups, Royal Caribbean never calls that out and to say that. And whether that's right or wrong, debate for a different day. So the answer to your question is you'll never know ahead of time unless you were to simply, before you booked your cruise, start Googling around and say, group cruise on, Anthem of the Seas, such and such date, right? I get you're disappointed. I'm not saying you shouldn't be disappointed. I get it. I would also tell you, this is what my counter argument to you is simply, Solarium Bistro is nice. It's not the best restaurant on the ship, and having no access to it, I don't think will have as deep of an impact as you think. Remember, you're losing out on Solarium Bistro, but there is a fairly large portion of guests on board who will only be eating the Solarium Bistro. They won't be eating the Windjammer. So it's not like they're closing the Solarium Bistro, and now you have one less restaurant for the entire ship to deal with. Rather, there's a subset of folks on there who are keeping kosher and eating only there. So it should be, I don't say it's more of a wash, but it's more of a wash than I think you think of it. That being said, I think the Windjammer is totally fine on Embarkation Day. You just have to get there early. If you can board the ship before 11:30, then you'll have no problem. It's people who get on board the ship at like 12:30, 1 o'clock, they run into the really bad crowds up there. That being said, some of your information is wrong. The Chops is almost always open on Embarkation Day. They won't have all the restaurants, and you're correct, the main dining room isn't open. But usually, in today's day and age, at least Chops is open for lunch. Jamie's Italian might be open as well for lunch on Embarkation Day. So don't discount that off the bat. In fact, I'd be fairly surprised if it wasn't the case. Now, the way to figure it out, because that's not what you're asking now, Kaylee, reading a past cruise compass would help you there to figure out, based on past years. We keep an archive of cruise compasses over at royalcaribbeanblog.com. You'll see in our main menu, cruise compass, find your ship. It may not be a 1-to-1. Like if you find out, Quantum of the Seas, I think, was sailing Alaska last year. Maybe Anthem was too, now that I think about it. But anyway, find a one from last year and look it up. It was Anthem was last year. So you're good. Find an Anthem of the Seas cruise compass from last year and see if Chops Grill was open on Embarkation Day, which I think it was. And if it was, then you're good to go right there. But truly, I wouldn't worry about it. You're losing out on the restaurant, but then again, there's a fair amount of people who will be going there anyway. So board the ship early, check in, get to the cruise terminal. I would get there at 10 o'clock in the morning, check in, and hopefully you'll be boarding soon and you'll beat the crowds over there. So thank you, Kaylee, for the email. And we have time for one last email, and that is coming to us from Melena. Hi, Matt. Royal Up offers just went out for my March cruise. It's $45 a person to upgrade from Ocean View Balcony to a spacious Ocean View Balcony. After looking at open cabins still available on my sailing date, there are about 15 or so I saw available. From your experience, would this mean decent odds my bid would be accepted? I'm more than happy with our current selection, but figured it'd be worth a shot. I'll hear your thoughts and opinions on this. Oh, Melena, I wish it was that straightforward. The problem with Royal Up, and we're doing actually a video. I think this video will be out by the time this podcast comes out. But there is more than just simply are the rooms available and how much you're bidding. Royal Up is a black box system, and there's an algorithm at play, and no one really knows. It's not as straightforward as it sounds. It's not simply, oh, there's a cabin available, you're going to place your bid. It's like a shoo-in kind of thing. Honestly, it may not be. Royal Up takes into account a couple different factors, including what cabin you started out with, how much you paid for it, and other. Basically, they're trying to maximize the revenue from it. So, decent odds, sure. Is it better odds than if there were no cabins available and it was sold out for that category? Yes, of course, 100%. Because in that situation, you're only banking on a last-minute cancellation. But I still think any Royal Up bid you make is worse than 50-50 chances at it, because there's more factors involved than simply cabin being available and how much your bid is. This is why you can't just simply max bid and get a Royal Up necessarily. I would say this, Milena. Go for it. Sure, knock yourself out. Roll the dice on it. But certainly don't use that as like, boy, if we don't get this upgrade, we're in trouble, or I'll be disappointed, or anything like that. It's like playing a scratch off at the lottery, right? Like, you play it not because you think you're going to win $1 million, but boy, wouldn't it be nice if you did? Similar thing with Royal Up. But again, check out their video on our YouTube channel about Royal Up, and where I go into much more detail about why it's not quite as straightforward and how people kind of try to factor it and understand it better with Royal Up. Thank you to Milena for the email. Thank you to everybody for checking out this episode of the Royal Caribbean Blog Podcast. Of course, you can always email me your questions, Matt, M-A-T-T, @RoyalCaribbeanBlog.com. Until next time, I'm Matt. We'll talk again real soon.